Greetings, kindred. Wow, I'm bloody exhausted. I don't know about you. The energies have just been super, super hyper. And yeah, it's just been really fast-paced energy that I've been feeling over the last few weeks. And yeah, so we're through the Lionsgate now, and now we're heading into like the autumn season, really. I mean, the leaves are already turning here in the UK. And even though we're still getting warm days, it's like I can feel autumn in the air pretty early this year, actually. And yeah, it's like there's been a whole heap going on, hasn't there? Sort of like in the media, and the media is very much divided right now. So it's almost like it's become a lot more competitive and argumentative and and it's not like I even personally follow the media myself, but yeah, it's just the energies I'm feeling, and I'm seeing a lot of stress around the world and a lot of protesting, and yeah, it's like things are really building up. I mean, they've been building up and then slowing down, building up and then slowing down. And now I just feel like the energies are all going to be coming into full force as we enter into autumn, winter, and into the new year. So Mercury did actually go into PreShadow on the 20th of August, and I'm actually recording this on the 22nd. And I'm looking at this, and it's 2022 at 2200 hours here in the UK that Mercury enters into PreShadow. And yeah, the twos have been my numbers since 2016. And that's another thing I really wanted to talk about, because I've been feeling these energies escalating since 2016. And yeah, it really has, like, it's really becoming like really like a full force. I mean, in 2020, I was saying we haven't seen nothing yet. In 2021, I was saying we haven't really seen anything yet. But this year, yeah, this is where, the next few years are going to be, from here onwards, the next few years are going to be really kind of erratic, and especially since we have Pluto here, who's in retrograde at the moment. I mean, he will be going direct, I think, around about October, but he will do another shift back to 29 degrees before he goes direct. Now, Pluto's going to be entering into Capricorn February next year. So really, I mean, Pluto is such high energy, or such intense energy. I mean, Uranus is really high energy, but Pluto here, his energy is really intense. And since he's been transiting through Sagittarius, there has been a lot of kind of revelations. I mean, but he's a very slow planet. So, his effects are very subtle initially until he's coming towards the end of the transit of that sign. And that's because, like I said, like this rainbow bridge we have between each sign, which is the aura, 7 layers to an aura. And it doesn't matter if you're human, animal, plant, everything that's living has an aura. And, the immediate layers are the 7 of them, connected to the 7 chakras in our body. And the outer layer is the crystalline energy, it's the transmitter. And, we are in the age of Pisces. The sun rises at 8 degrees at the moment on the March equinox. And 8 is the number of Saturn. And Saturn is transiting his own sign at the moment, but he's in retrograde. I think he's due to go direct. Actually, let's have a look at my little calendar. I do a calendar every year of like the moons, the planets in the solstices, and major planetary aspects that are upcoming. So this particular Well, right, what was I looking at? Uranus, Saturn, right. Oh, right, so Saturn goes direct on the 23rd of October. Pluto goes direct on the 9th of October. So when does Uranus? Oh, right. Uranus actually hasn't gone into retrograde yet. I think he's due to go on the 24th, yeah. So, he's transiting Aries at the moment. So he will go into retrograde at 20 degrees and end his retrograde at 16 degrees. And Capricorn, oh, right. Pluto, I mean, yeah, he will transit back to 29 degrees before he goes forward again. So he's now down to 30 degrees. So he's already shifted 2 degrees backwards. And, each shift is pretty major. But when he actually transits, Jupiter, go direct in November. Let's just do this. And, it's Neptune that will end his retrograde on the 3rd of December. So that's the day before my birthday, actually. But he will retrograde back to 0 degrees Neptune. So, 0 is quite a major number because it really is the ethereal. It really does go beyond like human consciousness, and definitely in Pisces. I mean, Pisces is very highly spiritual and very out there, in the never never land. Do you know what I mean? And like I said, with the Ophiuchus energy of ether, which can distort things, the Pisces energy can actually blur. It's more a blur, more blurred lines. Do you know what I mean? And Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. So, he's very strong in his own sign, like Saturn at the moment. He's very strong in his own sign of Capricorn. So getting back to Pluto, he's going to be transiting into Capricorn, like I said, February next year. Now, this is going to be a major shift because this is an energy change, even though, he's going through the seven rays. When he moves into Capricorn, it's a whole different energy. I mean, Sagittarius is a fire sign. It's quite a fast-paced energy. It's all about honesty and truth and lies and deceit also. And Pluto is the master of lies and deceit. Although he's also very exposing and very exploitive, exploitation is one of his fortes. Do you know what I mean? For good or ill. I mean, Pluto really just doesn't give a shit about humanity. He only cares about, making the environment structure. It's more about structuring the environment. It's more into molecular structures and like nuclear energy. Do you know what I mean? So his transitions that he creates, it's like a death process. And it's funny that we go through that death process in the house of Pluto, and then we enter into the house of Ophiuchus, which is all about ascension. So, Pluto's transit from Sagittarius into Capricorn is going to be major. I mean, there has been, transitions going on in our religious values, in our morals and principles, in how we relate to people. Sagittarius is a very mutable sign, so very talkative. But when you go into the Capricornian energy, now this is control. This is like, I would say, more smaller organizations and churches and denominations and charities, that's kind of like Sagittarius Jupiterian energy or areas. But Capricorn is more about corporations, establishments, structures, like the bones, the bare bones of things. So you know, as we've been seeing breakdowns, or not even breakdowns, because breakdown is more of a Saturnian kind of energy, but Pluto is more like wipe it out energy. Do you know what I mean? Let's clear it out, clean it out. I mean, nuclear energy is a cleaner, it's like a purifier, but it's also very destructive to life. And, or to, you know, with the Sagittarian energy, it's more about the Sagittarian energies where Pluto's been really kind of like making major transitions. So yeah, you know, I have done a video with Howard or Stephen Conte regarding when Pluto moves into Capricorn. I mean, it is a 2-hour long video, but there are little nuggets and little gems in that video if you haven't heard that already. But, you know, this Capricornian energy to me, you know, we're heading into that now. So as Pluto goes direct in October, we're going to start seeing what's to come. Do you know what I mean? When he transits into Capricorn and through Capricorn. So at the moment, you know, I mean, Pluto's energy can be subtle in certain ways when, you know, it's like things are going on behind the scenes, but all of a sudden it just explodes in your face. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, we'll do more about Pluto anyway, you know, in another video. Because I think Stephen and I will be coming together to talk more about this because it's a big, big move. You know, I mean, Neptune moving into Pisces was kind of a big move, but you know, Neptunian energy is more kind of, yeah, it's more about how we feel and our dreams and our visions, our psychic energy, our creativity. And it's more kind of on a spiritual, feminine level. Whereas even though, you know, the sign of Scorpio is feminine, I mean, Pluto's energy is actually very masculine. So, I mean, this is the Mercury retrograde, sorry, PreShadow chart. So Mercury went into PreShadow on the 20th, like I said. And we all know what Mercury retrograde is all about by now. So the shadow energy is just as potent as the, you know, the retrograde itself. I mean, Mercury will go retrograde on the 10th of September at 14 degrees in Virgo. So on the 10th of September, Mercury will be at 14 degrees, but throughout his retrograde, he will retrograde back to 0 degrees. So this is where the pre-shadow starts. And, you know, I will get more into, you know, yeah, well, this is where his pre-shadow starts and where his direct mode will begin, or his post-shadow. Because he will be, as he enters retrograde, he will be in post-shadow until he reaches back to 14 degrees. So now we're in pre-shadow, Mercury, and in Virgo, wow, that can be a little bit overwhelming, you know? It's like when it comes to details, and details seem never ending. The more you go through stuff, it's like you just can't find peace there. You know, it's a very restless energy. We can go over and over and over things. It's very repetitive. And so we really will be more drawn to what we're comfortable with. But with the South Node in quincunx to the moon on this particular day, so I think within the last 2 days or so, I think many of you have felt really out of your comfort zone, where you just cannot find your comfort zone. It's like it's non-existent at the moment. Do you know what I mean? You know, and that's really for those of us that are not in our niche, or have already created that comfort zone that is solid, but still we can see the energies around us. We can, you know, see the erraticness around us. And sometimes we can worry about other people. you know, when they're not grounded, when they're not solid, when they're in kind of erratic energy. So in a way, it's like a domino effect. And yeah, so this Mercury retrograde, I mean, Mercury retrograde is always very important. It's about going over old ground. I'm sorry if you can hear that in the background. It's one of my neighbours, I think, having some fun out there. But yeah, so, you know, but he's very serious. You know, he was in Taurus earlier this year, which is more about the self. And, you know, but when Mercury's in Virgo, we can kind of neglect ourselves. Do you know what I mean? We can get so engrossed in our kind of like mentality or projects that we forget about ourselves. We forget to nurture ourselves. You know, we put all our efforts into our projects or other people, you know, because Virgo does rule the seventh house in the true lifetime sky, which is that the house of relationships on the whole. You know, it's like how we relate to other people. Um, you know, and as he goes into retrograde, yeah, he's kind of in this kite aspect. So he's in trine to Uranus, and you know, which is pretty good for our mental abilities, instincts, and our humanitarian values. Do you know what I mean? It's good for investigation and research. Um, you know, and even though our intuition can be blocked here because we have Mercury in shadow in square to the goddess Pallas, you know. So there's a square here with Mercury, shadow, and the goddess Pallas who's in Taurus at the moment and in not a close conjunction with the moon, but very close to the moon. So with this quincunx here, it's like, you know, there is this like, especially in Taurus, if we're not feeling in our comfort zone in Taurus, we can become very kind of agitated. You know, it's like that bull when he's kind of snorting and he's feeling really agitated, but, you know, just before he starts charging, you know what I mean? So it's like there's something brewing, like a dissatisfaction, or, you know, maybe we can't really tap into our inner selves, into our intuition. You know, like I said, Taurus is a sign that really believes in what he sees. He's not very good with his instincts. It's more about what he thinks at that moment or what he's seeing at the moment, And, you know, because Mercury is also in trine to the nodes, um, yeah, and the nodes are in this grand cross, you know, this grand cross has been ongoing since the new moon, the last new moon, which is very repetitive. And, you know, I spoke a little bit about that. I will go into that again in a little while. But, you know, there's a lot going on with media and politics at the moment that's taking us away from being able to settle and feel comfortable in our own skin. And this isn't just necessarily, you know, us watching the media, or this is the energies at large, you know, because we, like I said, we all affect each other. So sometimes we're feeling energies or we're feeling negative energy, but we don't know why we're feeling it. We just are, and we're trying to pinpoint where it's coming from. Well, that's like the Taurian energy with the goddess Pallas in Taurus, in square to Mercury's going into shadow. So he's going back to try and find a place of comfort. But before he does, he needs to be organized. And, you know, at 0 degrees, there is no organization, you know, because it's beyond our control. I mean, like I said, 0 degrees. It's beyond, it goes beyond human consciousness. You know, there's also a lot going on globally when it comes to reform. There's a lot going on in our science movements, and our religious institutions, you know, and there are really major changes. I mean, cultural, I would say, in our cultural, traditional kind of lives or businesses or daily rituals, practices. Do you know what I mean? There's change going on there, and it's pretty forceful. So Pluto, who's in trine to Uranus, who's conjunct the North Node, it's like, wow, this is very dominating, you know. I mean, Uranus is really already in shadow. He's due to go into retrograde on the 24th of August, which is really in 2 days' time. Like I said, I'm recording this on the 22nd of August. So, you know, I think by the time, you know, Uranus goes into retrograde, it's like we're going back to like probably certain rules and regulations or certain things that were revealed, you know, maybe over the last few years. It's like we're going to start seeing that being played out. And, you know, it's an energy that is very, very strong, very, very fast paced, because Uranus, whether he's going backwards or forwards in Aries, it's always fast. So when we're going forward, when Uranus is going forward in Aries, it's like we're rushing forward, full steam ahead. We don't even have time to side glance to see what's around us. Do you know what I mean? And when he's going backwards, it's like being pulled through a hedge backwards, basically. You know what I mean? So, yeah, and it's very collective energy. You know, the nodes in astrology on a global level, on a global event report, would represent, you know, the environment, the mood of the environment, and you know, life cycles. So yeah, you know, but with Pluto in retrograde, I mean, Pluto's already kind of quite a secretive planet. And Mercury in shadow, I mean, this is all kind of behind the scenes stuff now. And, you know, so this trine is like very subtle, but it can be very manipulative. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, we just need to watch out for that. But because our intuition is a little bit blocked, you know, not all of us, but some of us, because of our intuition is a little bit blocked, I would say you definitely need to, I've been saying it all through the Lion's Gate anyway, continue to do meditation, continue to do deep breathing, you know, and if you just do a little bit each day, because with the energies that I'm seeing right now, we can really kind of resist, you know, self-care. We can be in that place of resistance when it comes to self-care. And we need to really look after ourselves at this time and prepare. You know, and when I say prepare, I don't mean run out and buy this, buy that. I mean prepare ourselves, because the only way to really get through chaos or erratic energies is by being the calm in the storm, you know? So, you know, whatever's going on around the world, it's spreading like, you know, and it has been for the last few years. It's like a domino effect, because it's a global thing, a global event that's occurring at the moment, you know, astrologically. And, you know, it's very much involves politics and science and the media, because, you know, of where the planets are placed, like Saturn in his own sign of Capricorn. You know, that's very dominating, very ruling. You know, Saturn is a ruling planet. Pluto is a ruling planet. You know, Jupiter is kind of a ruling planet, although he's very in his spiritual values at the moment. But with Pluto and Sagittarius, he's having to recreate, but at 15 degrees, wow. You know, like I said before, I've spoken about the 15, I think a few podcasts ago, because 15 was coming up a lot around about that time. And 15 is the number of, you know, what we reap. We reap what we sow. Sorry. We reap what we sow. And it's more based on negative karma rather than good karma. So, you know, if there's been an abuse of power in any form or way, there's like, there's going to be like a backlash to that. There's going to be a reveal to that. Because as Pluto finishes his transit through Sagittarius, wow, you know, he's not quiet when he shifts like that. When he shifts, it's loud. And, you know, the environment energies right now are very, very noisy. And I can vouch for that, because if you can hear my neighbour, it's been like that all weekend, not with just one member, but it's just been very noisy outside, very noisy, but the energies are very noisy as well right now. So, yeah, it's a very high energy time, and we do need that time to rest. We do need that time to get our heads around things and really strategize. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, we'll talk a little bit about Pluto's sextile to Neptune. Now, this is a very long-term aspect. It goes on for, well, maybe nearly a century, this it's like nearly a century, like nearly 100 years. I think in this particular scenario, I mean, they came into sextile in around about 1942. And, you know, up to this point, that was about 80 years ago now. So over the last 80 years, Pluto and Neptune have been in sextile. Now, this is all about world karma. It's about mass destiny. And, you know, it can either bring about utopia or a complete destruction of humanity. That is actually what this sextile is about. And that's why I say in a lot of my podcasts, you know, there are some major, major changes going on in the world, but we need to make sure that it's for the benefit of the people. It's for the benefit of the planet and the people, you know, and it's down to us to really research certain areas that maybe we're interested, or if we're following a narrative, say, then we should really do our own research into that narrative, because there's such a lot of inconsistency and, you know, arguments. And, you know, we don't have to be, you know, a master of science. We don't have to be a master of politics. You know, this is where our instincts come in. We have to really go with what we resonate with. We mustn't just like hear a narrative and straight away think, you know, get into that panic mode or take it as gospel. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, there are kind of like a lot of differences of opinions. And I am definitely one to say, you know, we need to like do our own research. And, you know, with Uranus and Mercury in trine, you know, it does give us the space to do that in a way, you know, if we can calm ourselves first. Do you know what I mean? So, we're not being selfish if we cut off from the environment or from the people around us. We're not being selfish if we're doing that. If we're going to be coming back a better person that's more stable, more solid, more grounded, more able to guide others into being in that place of peace, but in that place of strength. It's like we have to learn to say no. Some of us need to learn to use that word no and not feel guilty about it, or not feel like we're walking on broken eggshells about it. You know what I mean? Sometimes we just need to stand strong, and we can do that in peace. We don't have to, create drama or be in a place of drama, or well, maybe some do. Do you know what I mean? It really depends on where we are in the world and, what's being thrown at us at the time. But, on the whole, we've got to stand in our self-power and learn to use the word no. And not like, but if I don't, at the end of the day, we all have a right to say no. And yeah, that's Mercury PreShadow. So Uranus will start his retrograde on the 24th of August at 14:41 here in the GMT time zone. Now Uranus will be at 19 degrees. And this is kind of a good position for Uranus at 19 degrees. I mean, 19 is a pretty fortunate number. It's very creative. And 9 and 1 adds up to 10. So in a way, it's connected to the house of Ophiuchus. So again, it's like a rebirth, a spiritual rebirth, or a rebirth of creativity. But it's also about unconditional love, which is fantastic, and it's really good for children. I mean, the 10th house of Ophiuchus is all about children as well. It's about humanity on the whole, and genetics and reproduction and rebirthing into the spiritual realms. But it's a very fertile house, So, I just feel there's some newness coming around about this time with Uranus going into retrograde. I mean, Uranus in retrograde through Aries is all about inner change. So I think as Mercury went into PreShadow and we're all kind of up in the air, can't get comfortable, just don't know where our comfort zone lies. I feel when Uranus goes into retrograde, there is a great opportunity here for us to get into our individualism and become a little bit more spontaneous, where we're willing to take a little bit of a risk. Do you know what I mean? I mean, also, Uranus retrograding in Aries can be quite intense. I mean, it can also represent rebellion, but it's definitely new beginnings and wanting to try, new territories. But depending on the rest of the chart, of course, it's like, will it be for the good though? I mean, the intention is there, the good intention is there. So I think on an individual level, there's a really big opportunity here to get not so much grounded, because Uranus is definitely not grounding energy, definitely not in Aries either. But it's about feeling free of needing to be in that comfort zone. It's like willing to open the mind and explore new territories. And, this is Lionsgate we've been through. I mean, there was a major ascension going on there and a major awakening going on throughout that time. So as we come up towards the new moon, because after Uranus goes into retrograde, a few days later it'll be the new moon, which we'll get into in a minute. I just feel there's opportunities there to get into our, not so much our spiritual consciousness, which is Neptune's energy, because we're already there, really, in the spiritual, in that world of fantasy, or that world of dreams, or in that world of like creation, you know what I mean? But it can be a little bit out there to bring it into practicality. Whereas Uranus is more about opening the mind. It's all about telepathic communication. And I feel that is the part we need to be careful of, all of this telepathic communication, the crystalline energy. Because there's a lot of narratives being thrown out there at the moment that, are very kind of disruptive or leading or, misconstrued, whatever that word is, misconstrued, I can't pronounce it, misconstrued. I'll leave it as that, you know what I mean. So yeah, I definitely feel like there's this like rebirthing going on the inner realms, within ourselves, coming into our individuality. Is great opportunities there. But of also, with the good also comes, the bad, so to speak. So, we still have this grand cross ongoing, which is repetitive cycles, but I think we're getting a little bit worn with this now. I mean, the sun was at this particular corner of this grand cross, but now it's Venus. Venus has taken the sun's place, and Venus has been in conjunction with the goddess Ceres for a while now. Now the goddess Ceres at 15 degrees shows me that there's an abuse of power going on. I mean, the goddess Ceres supports the water signs, especially the sign of Cancer, which Venus and the goddess Ceres are in at present. And Moon is also in the sign of Cancer, in opposition to Pluto. So I feel emotionally there's emotional exhaustion or emotional depletion by the time Uranus goes into retrograde. And like I said earlier, when Uranus goes into retrograde in Aries, we can feel like we're being pulled through a hedge backwards. Do you know what I mean? So I do feel this is an emotionally exhausting time when it comes to our inner security, or even, our environmental security. Pluto's revealing truths, but he's also, he's also the planet of exploitation. And, with Venus and Ceres at the corner of the sky in opposition to Saturn, it's like there's a big restriction going on when it comes to our resources, or there's a block there when it comes to our resources, our desires, or the economy. So 15 is an abuse of power. 17, oh, I'm clicking buttons here, I shouldn't be. 17 is a very spiritual number, but it's all about, immortality, the continuity of life in various forms and various phases, so it's all about ideas and principles themselves, but some can be summarized as truth, hope, faith, charity, that persist. I mean, this is like all the traditional values. And, I mean, Ceres is also about children as well. So 19 is about children. So it could be like things being not revealed as such, but maybe, yeah, it's all around surrounding children and wanting to protect children. And I think Venus in the sign of Cancer, just like Venus in the sign of Ophiuchus, can be a little bit overprotective at times of the people they love. But, you know, I feel this is more protecting our structures around our resources, around our sense of security. You know, and this is definitely on, again, on a societal global level. So, you know, Uranus in Aries is definitely the defender of the underdog. And we're seeing this play out in major ways right now. You know, so in this ground cross, I mean, one side of the T-square here, you know, because altogether there's 4, that's what makes a ground cross. But with Venus and the goddess Ceres in opposition to Saturn, with Saturn in retrograde, you know, we're trying to find maybe resources, or, you know, we're thinking about resources for the future, or how we dealt with certain situations in the past that may be occurring now. But with this shift going on with Uranus and the North Node, it's really about opening our minds and really, you know, going along with our individual thoughts, our individualistic kind of the way we play things out, the way we act things out in the world. But because we're caught up in this repetitive cycle here, it's like a little bit ongoing, and it's all to do with governance. You know, Saturn in its own sign is very governmental, and yeah, in opposition to the goddess Ceres, and Venus shows me that the civilians, or the world's population on the whole, are finding it very difficult to probably get resources, or maybe there's a shift. I mean, it's like a domino effect as well. You know, what we're seeing around the world tends to have a domino effect when it's a global situation. And I think that's what we're seeing now. And with the sun at 13 degrees in Leo on the 24th, wow, you know, that's another kind of like light being shone on the birthing of something new, like a new perception or a new outlook. But the atmosphere around it, you know, is very kind of like unstable, or evasive, you know, with the moon in opposition to Pluto, you know, depletion of our emotional energy. It could be like we're depleted because there's arguments about money, or someone's being overly emotionally controlling, especially with the moon in Cancer. We can tend to smother people, and Pluto's very possessive. So maybe, you know, many of us that are kind of like free spirits will feel during this time a sense of overwhelm when it comes to like feeling suffocated or overwhelmed by our situations, you know, and especially when it comes to our resources and our desires. Do you know what I mean? And what we want to feel secure and stable, or maybe we're seeing this abuse in whatever way that abuse is playing out in our lives, you know, but we've got to trust and have faith that, you know, we will get through this time. So for those of you out there that are feeling pretty isolated, or feeling a little bit alone in the world. And even if you've reached out to people, people are just too busy in their lives to really give you, you know, the time and space you need. Don't give up, because there are others out there as well. And it's all about balance and finding your niche. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, but with Mercury in sextile to the moon, I mean, Mercury and Mars are actually sitting on at the side of a kite, and the moon is actually on top of the kite. So, you know, this is like, wow, either way, we are feeling suffocated or controlled or, you know, restricted. And, we're finding it very difficult in our lives to hold on to things that are important, you know, and things that give us that sense of security or and nourishment even. So, you know, but with Mars in trine to Pluto, I would say that, you know, this is a very strong-willed energy, very highly developed psychic energy, you know. There's a great understanding of energy. We'll put it this way, Mars in Taurus is it's a very, very stubborn energy. I mean, this is the ball that will dig in his heels. Do you know what I mean? Especially within at 8 degrees. I mean, 8 is the number of Saturn. Saturn could be just as demanding and stubborn. So here, you know, we can say basically, what's that phrase like? Stamping our feet and spitting our dummy out. You know what I mean? Standing strong in our own opinions. But the thing with Taurus, like I said before, they only believe in what they see. But in sometimes that is pretty good, you know, especially when we've got all this high intuitive energy going on anyway, you know, but there is a lot of different opinions going on out there, but we really need to bring it back to ourselves and make up our own minds. And I think even though Mercury's in shadow, he is at 4 degrees, which can give us a little bit of mental stability. Do you know what I mean? But he is in opposition to Jupiter, Neptune, and Juno. So we just need to be careful that we're not building castles in the sky. But I don't think we are, because I think we are really coming into the reality of our situations, you know, of our foundations. And, you know, I really do think like there's when as Uranus goes into retrograde, I feel that we'll get our energy back. But emotionally, it's very depleting. And this is the push and pull that I've been seeing all through the Lionsgate, you know, continuing up to now. It's like there's this push and pull energy while we're being strong and we're standing in our self-power. It's like the more we do that, it's the more pressure that is put upon us. Do you know what I mean? But I think the way we have to see it is that pressure's going to be there anyway, and it is going to escalate. So it's only right that we do stand in our self-power. We do take control of our own lives right now and prepare ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, you know, for the next few months that are coming up. So that's Uranus retrograde. And then we have the new moon. So the new moon takes place on 27th of August at 9:17 in the GMT time zone, at 4:17 in the EDT time zone, and at 18:17 in the AEDT time zone. So it's 9:17 in the GMT, 4:17 in the EDT, and 18:47 in the AEDT. Now the moon there's that number 15 again. The moon and sun will be at 15 degrees. Now, you know, when this 15 energy or frequency was coming in about a month or two ago, I was really feeling something from this energy. And, you know, even Jupiter is at 15 degrees in Pisces. I just feel there's some kind of exposure occurring. You know, Pluto now has shifted back to 29 degrees. So this is the last degree he shifts back to before he goes direct. Now, this shifting energy here, I feel is creating, like, you know, when I said that the Uranus retrograde, there's a shift of energy going on where something new's coming to light. You know, but whether that's for the good or the bad, I don't know. But for people to be digging in their heels and standing their ground, it looks to me like, you know, many of us are coming into our self-power, you know, whether that's within our relationships, you know, whether that's in our personal relationships or whether that's within our environmental conditioning, you know, we are kind of recognizing that there's something not right here. Do you know what I mean? And the thing is, karma is man-made in the respect that man makes his own karma. But it's the universe really that rewards us when it comes to karma. And I call it a reward because it's not, you know, when we say, oh, it's karma, it's not a negative, it doesn't hold a negative. Karma is just karma. Like, karma has a negative and a positive, just like all the planets do, just like we do as human beings. We all have a negative and a positive, you know, but even that, it's all about balance. So I feel with all these 15 energies, balance is really being created right now. And it's like, you know, with Uranus in Libra, which is all about justice, I mean, at 8 degrees as well, which is the number of Saturn. And I know Saturn really gets a bad reputation out there, or he's had this bad reputation built up around him. But it is a man-made demonization of Saturn. I mean, I'm not saying Saturn was the perfect man, but he was a king. He was like a very well-respected king. He made one mistake, and that was by having an affair on his wife and producing a mixed child. And we're talking a mixed child of planetary mix. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, he was selfish. All kings are selfish, you know. All kings, like, feel they hold a lot of power. You know, if we're talking about ancient times, it was like, you know, but he wasn't the demon that he was made out to be, although he was very strict, he was very structured, you know. I mean, he was the king of the golden age when it comes to his own planet, Maldak. And, you know, so he is very strong and powerful. And, you know, Pluto is his son. I mean, it's Pluto really that demonized Saturn. It was Pluto's energy that demonized Saturn's energy. Even though, you know, Saturn loved his son. He loved both his sons. But Pluto just had such a deep resentment for him, you know. So, yeah, this number is all about abuse of power, but it's about, you know, the repercussions of that, you know. And the new moon is the beginning of that. So, yeah, I mean, as we come towards the end of August, we're going to start seeing a lot play out in the collective, you know. But because of Pluto's energy at the moment, it can be that it's all like not making sense out there, or it's making sense, but it's wrong information. So I just feel we need to be careful that we're getting the right information, you know, because like there's a little bit of a blame game going on here. And I just feel that even though there is an exposure and exploitation going on, it may be more behind the scenes, you know what I mean? And yeah, just watch out for that anyway. So, you know, the moon in Leo is all about authenticity anyway. You know, when it comes to, you know, wanting to better yourself. You know, the moon in Leo can be quite self-centered at times and a little bit dramatic. Do you know what I mean? Pride and being over proudful can be to their detriment. You know, childish attitude can be to their detriment. But sometimes, you know, we need to lighten the load as well. So maybe, you know, all this that's being exposed, or all this like abuse that I'm seeing here, this abuse of power I'm seeing here, maybe it's just being made light-hearted when really it's a little bit more serious than that. And I really do feel it's connected to our spiritual values, or to our religious values, or to smaller organizations, like smaller businesses. Do you know what I mean? So we need to just watch out for that. And the moon will also be in a T-square. So the moon will be in opposition to the goddess Vesta, or the moon and sun will be. And the goddess Vesta is at 0 degrees. Now, we talk about 0 degrees, it's beyond human comprehension, it's way out in the ethers. But in Aquarius, we're able to expand our minds and be in that place of open-mindedness. Do you know what I mean? But because the moon and sun are in opposition, it can be, you know, a little bit of a push and pull between our emotions and our humanitarian quest. So what it is it could be that our emotions can be holding us back. Maybe we're suffering an element of abuse in our lives in some way. Maybe we're in an abusive relationship, or maybe, you know, we feel like our joy in life or our health is suffering, and, you know, we want to be compensated for that, or we want to be supported in that, you know. So that's another thing that we need to watch out for as well. You know, it can also represent a change in direction, which would make sense with Uranus going retrograde. I mean, that could be about a change of direction. Or, you know, it could be that we made a plan and it isn't really playing out how we planned it, whatever that is. Do you know what I mean? But the most important here is to keep going. You know, we must keep going, because like this is pretty dark energy, even though it's new beginnings. And I really do feel that good will come from this. But when it's first revealed, it can be, you know, a little bit. See, there's this, so this T-square is actually making a T-square towards Mars in Taurus at 10 degrees now. Now, this is very volatile energy, you know, it can be like emotional outbursts, especially in Taurus, because Taurus will just break free, just all of a sudden. You know, Taurus isn't impulsive or known to be impulsive, but when he charges forward, it's like, you better get out of his way. Do you know what I mean? So this is really high energy. And you know, the one thing we must not do is suppress any negative emotions, or if we're feeling tired or depleted, or if we're just feeling really angry, or we're just feeling really stagnant, oh, we're not in good health. You know, we really need to release this energy. I mean, Taurus is very creative. You know, it's a very creative energy when it comes to art and music, stuff like that. I don't know. I've just got a feeling something's kicking off here. Because Mars, the ruler of Aries, is the protector of the underdog. You know, Vesta in Aquarius is humanitarian. So I just feel with 15 being like representing the abuse of power, either we're in really negative relationships, but we're going to get the energy to break free, or we're overwhelmed with feeling stuck. Do you know what I mean? Whatever it is, we need to release that in a way that's productive, even if we have to be harsh, even if we have to, you know, stamp our feet and spit our dummy out, so to speak. But what we must not do is act irrationally. Do you know what I mean? We must be authentic as well with our release. So I just feel there's going to be a little outburst here. Something's coming to light. I feel there's going to be a little outburst. And yeah, I just feel like I said from here onwards now, it's going to be full on. Because I really do feel like with Pluto in trine to Mercury, I mean, we've got a kite still here. You know, there's such an abundance of like mental energy and restlessness, and there's a lot of opinions and controlling behaviors going on in our world. And like, you know, we can actually watch how it's playing out and be very smart about things, because, you know, with Pluto in trine to Mercury, I mean, this is a very psychological energy, you know, that can get their heads around power plays and how energy works. You know, it's Pluto's a very investigative energy, so it's a good time to do research and investigation. You know, it's a really good time, but maybe what is kind of like revealed. So this adds up to 11, which is also new beginnings. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, like with this 15 frequency energy going on with Jupiter and the new moon in Leo. I don't know. And with what I've seen from previous charts, I mean, Venus would have moved 0 degrees into Leo as well. So, you know, Leo, the lion, he's very territorial, but he's a very proud person as well. And, you know, but he's very controlling. He's very kingly. Do you know what I mean? Like Pluto's very kingly. Yeah, we need to really stay in a place of like, I wouldn't say peace as such, because it's going to be very hard to find peace throughout this time, throughout the rest of August. It's going to be hard to find that inner peace, because there's so many changes going on within, on an inner level, for many people, you know. And I think for those of us, even for those of us that are kind of adept with energy, understands energy, you know, we're even going to be on tender hook ourselves, because no one really knows how this is all going to play out for sure. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we can all make predictions, but at the end of the day, the facts will be there as they play out. And, you know, I did say something was going to come out at the Lionsgate portal, and it did. And yeah, I just feel, you know, it's a continuation of that. But I just feel there's certain reveals as well, and it's all kind of to do with retaliation and competitiveness, and, you know, what we need to do is just getting to a place of stability, you know. And if we need to speak our minds, we need to speak it. If we need to stand our ground, we need to stand it. You know, whatever we need to do, as long as we're doing it in a disciplined, not even in a disciplined, but for a good cause, or for the betterment of mankind, for the betterment of the world. Do you know what I mean? I just feel there's a lot of very destructive energies going on right now. And yeah, they will continue, I think, going into October. So, you know, Mercury will finish his retrograde in October at 15 degrees, but he will be in post-shadow, so probably going towards the end of October, the Mercury retrograde will completely come to an end. But Uranus retrograde won't come to an end until January, beginning of January. And, you know, in the summer months, you know, when all the planets do start going into retrograde, things do kind of slow down and become a bit sluggish. But, you know, September, October, we're going to have a few planets coming out of retrograde. So, you know, things are going to start shifting forward again. And, you know, this is why I feel things start to escalate. Do you know what I mean? So, kindred, please stay in peace. And yes, sending you all much love. Take care.